There's absolutely an identity loss that is required to assimilate into whiteness, and I do talk about this in the first draft of my book when I talk about the unwritten rule of individualism, because the individualism in white collar work environments is something that a lot of people of color, working class, and women struggle with as they move up in class and into higher status environments. And so in my book, I talk about each unwritten rule, and I provide business case studies, like real examples of how this rule has played out. And then near the end of each chapter, I talk about class, neurodivergence, gender, and race, and like the nuances there. And this is what I wrote in the race section for that chapter. Individualism versus interdependence has also been examined between racial groups. Non-white groups tend to rate higher on collectivism than white groups. This might be due to non-white groups having stronger ethnic ties than white groups. In the course of human history, white is a relatively new term. As we discussed in the introduction to this book, white is a North American term emerging from the 1600s as a term to justify the enslavement of Africans and squelch revolts from poor Europeans and indentured servants. Before this term, Europeans would identify with their nationalities. The Irish, Italians, German, French, all are very different cultures. Thus, it is not the same communal tie to whiteness as there is for people from other communities. Since white was created to be a divider, a separator, it is not a happy identity. It is not something people want to admit they relate to. It doesn't have a rich, healthy history. Speaking as a white American who has conducted national level research on white Americans, we tend to say things like we have German, Irish, Italian, etc. ancestry, even if we have never been to those places. This is because all white Americans have ties to immigration, and because these identities are actual cultures that do not have roots only in oppression. Now, nowhere in my book do I negate that there are privileges that come with being white. We can both talk about how there are privileges to being white and how this is a toxic construct that still does harm.